Yesterday, San Francisco became the first U.S. city to enact a mandate for paid parental leave. Activists hope this will urge other U.S. cities to follow suit. So up until this point, California does already have a law called the California Paid Family Leave Program. It was enacted in 2002 and was actually the first law of its kind. And what it allowed parents to do is within the first 6 weeks after their child was born, they're allowed to take 6 weeks off with 55% of their wages. So this law enacted yesterday in San Francisco essentially just fills in that gap. So employers will supply the remaining 45% of that. So as of January 1st, 2017, San Francisco employers that have 50 or more employees are supposed to start enacting this law and will provide the remaining 45% for employers who employ 20 employees or less. That will be enacted in July of 2017. So it's a nice boost. It's a step in the right direction for parents in America. The United States is still the only developed nation that does not provide full maternity leave. So what do you think about that?
I mean, it's great news. I mean, and New York State is going to enact something similar as well. So and it's terrific. It's interesting that San Francisco, I wonder why San Francisco has been the first to actually enact this and actually make the move.
Well, it's interesting because they've actually been leaders in the past with regards to minimum wage laws, paid sick leave, and universal health care. I think there's some speculation that there's a lot of these, very successful tech companies up there that provide a good living for their workers and that kind of maternity and health care. So yeah, it's interesting. This Scott Weiner, who's on the San Francisco Board of Supervisors, he was the one who proposed this measure, and he had this to say. He says, "Our country's parental leave policies are woefully behind the rest of the world, and today San Francisco has taken the lead in pushing for better family leave policies for our workers. We shouldn't be forcing new mothers and fathers to choose between spending precious bonding time with their children and putting food on the table. I'm proud San Francisco is once again taking the lead in putting our workers and our families first." So, like I said, it's a nice step in the right direction. The fact that California already has this, partial wage benefit is nice, but there's a lot of people that are low-income workers that they can't even afford that. So this is at least, and again, 6 weeks is nice. There's other countries in the world that offer as many as 12 weeks, 48 weeks. So I think that
sure,
months, sometimes up to a year. So. I mean, America's still a few steps behind, but I still think that this is a step in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting in terms of employee protection. I think it is a far more aggressive, philosophically much more aggressive here than certainly in Europe, where there is much more of an emphasis on employee protection. You have workers' direction, workers' hours rights. The EU has long been criticized for putting in place certain protections and maximum hours that you can work. Remember is it this French working week? Do you remember that slight that that spat that they had at one of the GOP debates that got poor old Jeb Bush into trouble? But it's that similar kind of concept whereby there's much more legislation in place to protect employees. So certainly, and the United States seems very out of step with that, not just in maternity and maternity leave. But so this is a great step in the right direction.
Right, and you had mentioned that New York, actually last week, they signed a similar law into legislation, which was a mandated 12 weeks of paid time off. But that's, it's going to be kind of a slow phase in. At first, it's only going to cover about 50% of the workers' average pay. Again, it's all baby steps, I guess, pun intended, unintentionally there. This particular benefit in San Francisco applies to employees that work at least 8 hours a week, and they spend at least 40% of their work week in San Francisco, just so you know, and it does not apply to federal, state, or other municipal governments. But at the very least, as of yesterday, we have made a step in the right direction for new parents in America.